Ready? Chapter 36. Victim. Keon bent down to look at the ground. Mushrooms. He remembered the teachings from back in the school. They would always talk about which mushrooms you could eat and which ones were dangerous. Deathcap. Yeah, he wasn't going to pick that one. Maybe there were some chanterelles nearby. He walked along a narrow pathway, but he seemed to have no luck. Might as well head back, he thought to himself. He shouldn't be away from Aino for too long. Who knew what might happen? Keon was back at the place where he left Aino, but there was no sign of her. Where did she go? Was she out walking by herself? He looked around at the ground. Maybe she had fainted somewhere. Keon felt his desperation grow. He couldn't find her anywhere. Aino had never left his side before. If she wasn't around here, then something was wrong. Something was very wrong. He had to find one of the mages. He had seen some of the officers at the riverbank previously. It was closer than the camp. He turned around and set off running immediately. He had to get someone. Fast. Jarl was also running, but for a different reason. He had his hand covering Aino's mouth as he dragged her across the forest floor in full speed. He had been planning for this since the incident at his camp. He needed to get her as far away from the camp as possible, to somewhere none of the other mages could feel her. He had already calculated the distance it would take. Not even the twins would be able to sense her. He could feel the panic rise within Aino. She couldn't scream and she couldn't fight back. He was far too strong for her. He had seen his chance when Keon and she had walked into the forest. He didn't expect for that man to leave her alone, though. It was perfect. Not that Keon would have been able to do much against him either way. He wasn't even a mage. Niila was washing his cloak in the water. His creator didn't seem to like the smell of it, so he might as well clean it. We're heading back to the camp now, Niila. Don't take too long, or the other mages might drink all the alcohol, one of the officers said to him, as the last of them headed back towards the camp. I won't, he answered, as he hung up his cloak to dry on a tree branch. Niila! He heard someone yell at him. He turned around in surprise as he saw Keon come running at him in full speed. Aino is missing! We were only separated for a few minutes, but when I came back she was gone, Keon said as he stopped dead in his tracks in front of the general. His eyes widened as Niila could clearly see the desperation in his face. This was serious. Show me where you saw her last, he said to Keon. Niila wasn't about to waste another second. If his creator was gone, they had to find her. Keon nodded at him as they both ran back into the forest. Jarl slowed down. He was out of their reach now. He threw Aino on the ground and put his foot on her chest so that she couldn't get up. He rested his arm on his knee as he leaned in closer towards her. They can't feel you this far into the forest. Cry or scream if you want, but no one but I can hear you. He took his foot off her chest and sunk down on his knees, straddling her. From under his cloak he drew his two knives. He looked her in the eyes as he jammed them both right through each of her palms, nailing her to the ground. She groaned loudly in pain as the blades cut right through her bones. You might not bleed, but you sure do feel pain, he commented calmly. It was here. Keon pointed to the tree where he had seen Aino sitting last. Can you feel her? He asked Niila. The general focused. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. He looked around. There had to be something he could go off. A trace, a clue, anything that could give a hint to his creator's whereabouts. He walked around the tree and looked at the ground. What were those marks? He bent down and looked at them. He traced them with his eyes as they went deeper into the forest until he couldn't see any further. Had she been forcefully taken away, dragged across the forest floor? Niila stood up and turned to Keon. I'm sorry, but I don't think you'll be able to keep up with me from now on. It's okay, Keon didn't even get to finish his sentence as Niila had already blown past him. The general was without a doubt faster than him. 2 of Keon's steps was like 1 of Neela's. Well, even if I'm slower than him, I'm still a fast runner, Keon said to himself as he set off in the general's footsteps, wherever those might lead him. I can feel your fear. It's making me hard, Jarl said calmly as he started to open up the front of his pants. I've never fucked a god before, but the fact that you're an unwilling one makes it all the better. Aino stared at him. It had been a long time since she had felt this powerless before. He was about to rape her. This man, who had gained all his strength because of her, was about to use it against her. Keon was the only one who knew that she could control others. If she showed this man what she could do, he would without a doubt find some way to use it against her. He might even reveal her powers to the world. She had promised herself to become a better person in the new world, to never kill anyone again. This man, who had shown no empathy, no guilt, who in no degree would probably ever show any compassion for her, was she about to let him have his way with her? All because she couldn't show him her powers, because then she would have to kill him. Did she value his life over her own? Now be a good little whore and scream for me, he said as he pulled down her pants. How about you be a good big whore and stay quiet for me instead? Neela said as he grabbed his brigadier general by the throat and lifted him off the ground. Jarl fought desperately with both of his hands to free himself from Neela's grip, but it was useless. Neela was much stronger than he was. Aino could hear the bone slowly being crushed inside the brigadier general's throat. No, Neela, stop, she tried to tell him, but it was no use. The general wasn't listening to her. He was completely focused on Jarl. She tried to free her hands, but the knives were jammed so hard into the ground that she couldn't move them. All she could do was watch in horror as Jarl's time was coming to an end. Neela let go of his body as it sunk lifeless to the ground. Keon arrived at the scene just as it all had happened, but he could easily tell what had gone down. He ran up to Aino, and after some struggle he managed to pull out the knives from her hands. She sat up slowly and looked at him. She felt numb. Nothing felt right. All she knew was that she was happy that he was here with her. She reached over and put her hand on Jarl. He was already dead. There was nothing she could do. This is not what I meant when I said I would cut your strings off. I never wanted you dead. Why didn't you listen to me? She said quietly, as she felt her blood return into her bloodstream from him. Aino, please stand up, Keon said suddenly. She looked at him, a bit confused, but did as he said. He reached over and pulled up her pants. I'm sorry, but it was kind of hard to do that with you sitting down, he said, a bit embarrassed. I didn't even feel you coming, Aino said as she turned to Neela. He looked at her with sadness in his eyes. How could you? Your own emotions were so overwhelming in that moment. I could hardly even distinguish my own feelings from yours. Your fear pierced right through me. It was almost paralyzing. We should take his body back with us to the camp and give him a proper burial, Aino said, as she looked down on the ground at Jarl. Do you really think he deserves that? Neela asked her. No, but I want to do it anyway, she answered. Neela bent down and picked up Jarl's body and threw it over his shoulder. Aino looked at him. Where is your cloak? Well, you didn't like the smell, so I washed it. It's drying now, he answered her. She gave him a subtle smile of approval. Aino and Keon sat by the water as they watched the sunset. The burial had made them both think. No one had shown any warm feelings towards the Brigadier General at all. He seemed to have been feared and highly disliked. No one grieved for him, Keon said quietly. In a way I feel bad for him. He didn't ask to be born this way. Not being able to feel genuine love for another person. He must have felt like he was never truly alive. Aino got a sad expression on her face. Being unable to feel empathy for another person was never his choice. However, even without it, you don't have to become a bad person. It was his choice, and his choice alone. So in the end, should we really feel bad for him? Keon asked her. We are not him, though. I think it's okay to feel compassion for him, even though he would have never felt it for us, she answered him. Well, he might be dead, but that doesn't mean I'm forgiving him for all the things he did to you, Keon said as he looked over at Aino. She looked back at him. Unfortunately, things like that just doesn't get erased from your mind once they're over. They stay with you for a long time. I wish my mind fixed itself like my body does. Life would be so much easier then. Then you wouldn't be the person you are today. Our experiences shape us, both the good and the bad. If our minds healed without any scars, would we really learn anything? He asked her. Maybe not. Maybe our scars are what makes us able to compare and appreciate. Once you've seen the bad, you'll recognize the good even more, she answered as she leaned on him. Maybe I'll sleep tonight. Hopefully you won't have to watch any more of my bad memories play out for you. He smiled at her. If you ever want to talk about them, I'm here to listen. Maybe one day, she answered as she closed her eyes and let her mind wander.